I'm not really a big fan of them being labeled as these quote-unquote chosen sons, cause in reality they're not. We've got to talk about this. We have got to talk about this. If you haven't been living under a rock, I'm sure most of you saw the new Sports Illustrated that came out that is titled The Chosen Sons. I almost caught myself there. I wanted to say The Chosen One. It's not. It's The Chosen Sons. I think it looks phenomenal. It turned out great. If I'm LeBron James, I have got to hang this up in my house. It's legendary. Unless you're a kid, you know exactly where this originated from. The original Chosen One that had LeBron on the cover when he was only in high school. How old was he when he was in that picture? I believe he was either 16 or 17. I know he was only a junior. Although I do like this one, don't get me wrong, nothing, and I mean nothing at all, comes close to the original. The one with LeBron when he was in high school, it is just so iconic. Everything about it is so iconic, and back then when LeBron James on Sports Illustrated, it was a much bigger deal than it is now. I remember when I was growing up, and I'm sure many of you can also relate to it, Sports Illustrated was a huge deal, and being on the cover was an even bigger deal. And I'm not talking about a couple of years ago, I'm talking like 13, 14, 15 years ago when I was a kid. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, when I could really start getting into sports and keeping up with it and start knowing what I'm talking about, all this Twitter stuff and Instagram, it wasn't around. I believe, if I'm not wrong, correct me in the comment section if I am, Twitter was created in 2006 and Instagram was created in 2010. To give you some reference, in 2010, I was only 10 years old. So like I was saying, around 2008, 2009, 2010, there wasn't all this social media nonsense, and even if Twitter was around in 2006, there wasn't many people on it. So back then, since there wasn't an Instagram and Twitter to go on and get news, you know where people did get their news? From Sports Illustrated. Now if you think about it, and I'm just now thinking about it myself, we really got it made in 2022. If we want to hear about sports or try to find out or research something ourselves, we can go on Twitter or Instagram, we can go on the internet. Back in my day, and I sound like an old head, but when I was a kid, you had two options. You had to watch Sports Center or look at Sports Illustrated, no in-betweens. Here's a little fun fact for you. I didn't even have Wi-Fi growing up until I was 15 years old. Imagine nowadays a 15-year-old, whether it's a girl or boy without Wi-Fi, they'd be throwing a temper tantrum. But back then when I was growing up, and I'm sure many of you out there, you can relate to this, that was the normal. I didn't feel like I was missing out because the internet, it was just getting started. We are in a different generation though, and I wouldn't say having internet, it's a necessity, but it kind of is. I don't want to get into all that. I do apologize for the rant. I don't know why I talked about that so much. Let's lock in and let's get down to business. We're not doing no intro, none of that. We're jumping straight into it. If you do like the content, I would love to have you here. We're on the road to 1 million, and we can't get there without your help, so consider subscribing if you enjoy. Anyways, we're hitting the nail head on. You see the title of this Sports Illustrated. It says The Chosen Ones. I get it 100%. LeBron James himself, he thinks they're going to be the chosen ones as well. Mr. LeBron James tweeted out, "Whoa, just kids from Akron, the chosen one time, the chosen sons, hashtag James Gang." I love it. Most of you know I've said this about LeBron time after time, but he was a great role model and he's a great father. You can't take that away from him. I'm not too big of a fan of him on the court, but off the court, I respect the man so much. Unfortunately, LeBron, as much as I do like your son Bryce James, as much as I do like your son Bronny James, they're nowhere even close to being the chosen ones. And honestly, I think LeBron James, he knows that deep down, but he would never dare say it. Let me explain what I mean. If you haven't seen the movie More Than a Game, it documents LeBron's journey from middle school all throughout his high school career. You gotta check it out. Now, if you want some insight and perspective of just how good LeBron was in high school and how he was literally the chosen one, that's the best movie for it. And may I remind you, when LeBron was in high school, this was before social media. It was to the point where LeBron and his team, they had to have private security and private escorts to all their games. There were so many fans trying to go to their high school games, they had to move them from their high school to Akron University. Why did they have to do that? Well, I can tell you this, it wasn't for LeBron's teammates. Everybody wanted to see what this quote-unquote chosen one looked like. And it's crazy to even think or say this, but as much hype as he was getting, I don't even know if that was enough. I don't know if there will ever be another chosen one like LeBron James to not only be labeled as the chosen one, but live up to the expectations. That's something that I feel like LeBron doesn't get enough credit for. The expectations from day one that were put on LeBron James as a kid were astronomical, and somehow, some way, he lived up to them. For Bronny and Bryce, it is a it is a completely different story. Most of y'all know this, I'm on the Bronny hype train, I'm on the Bryce James hype train, and I think these kids are going to be great. But we got to be realistic here. As much as I do think Bronny is great and Bryce is great, they're not the chosen ones. I wish I could sit up here and say I hate to say this, Sadly, I just don't because it's the truth. Look at Bronny James' career. He has never even been the best player on any of his teams. Same thing for Bryce James. I don't want to speak on him too much because he still is relatively a kid and we still got to watch some more of his high school games to see how good he's going to be. But from everything I've saw, he's not even the best player on any of his teams. There's nothing about their games that even come close to comparing to when LeBron was in high school. Let me put it this way, and I think this is a great example. When LeBron was playing in high school, he was a guy, he was a player that you didn't even want to look away from when he was playing for half a second. You didn't want to look down at your phone. You didn't want to eat any food. You wanted to see what he was going to do every single second of the game. He was that special. He had that aura about him. Bronny and Bryce James, yeah, you want to see them play, but it's not the same effect. Let's take a look at this, though, and get down to the real nitty and gritty. LeBron James recently stated that he doesn't just want to play with Bronny. We all knew that. He also wants to play with Bryce. He stated, quote unquote, "I definitely be looking at who got first round picks in 2024, 2025, things of that nature, 2026 and 2027. I pay attention to that type of stuff." Okay, the conversation, the debate just got more interesting. I think it's a done deal. LeBron will play with Bronny. There's no question about that, but now he's talking about playing with Bryce. Here's where the debate starts to heat up because you're going to have so many people saying, oh, well, Bronny and Bryce James, they wouldn't even be considered to get drafted if they weren't LeBron's son. I always see this comment, and I think it's ludicrous. This person stated, has anyone ever asked Bronny/Bryce how they feel about this? I'd imagine getting a once-in-a-lifetime spotlight taken from you by your dad who had 20 plus years of it might suck a little. And I would respond to it, but this person, they said it better than I could. I assure you, if both you and your dad, assuming you get along, had the chance to play in an NBA game together, you would take it no matter what caliber player either of you are. Exactly, that's my point right there. If you have a great relationship with your dad, that's the dream to play with them. I do also want to address this. Everybody's bringing up, oh, how in the world is LeBron going to play that long? How's his body going to hold up? May I remind you, this is LeBron freaking James? I don't know if y'all forgot who he is, but his body isn't built normal. There's a reason. He is the chosen one. He's built different. And check out what Dwayne Wade had to say about him not too long ago. I know guys who rolled their ankle, be out for 4 weeks. I've seen this guy roll his ankle and come back and give you 20 in the fourth. When God made him, he said, all right, I'm going to give you all this, but I ain't going to give you no hairline. All right, come on, Dwayne Wade. That end, it was a little brutal, but it's also facts. There's always one thing I've said about LeBron that has stood out the most to me about his career, and it's just how much he maintains his body and doesn't get hurt. Yeah, recently we've seen him get banged up here and there, but that's to be expected. He's getting older. The fact that this man has nearly played 20 years in the NBA and hasn't had some major injury, it's astonishing. If you were to look up the definition of a freak of nature, there'd be a picture of LeBron right next to it. Let me throw this in there too. I forgot to mention this and bring it up. Anytime I talk about LeBron, I want to mention this so you can get some perspective. No, I'm not deriding LeBron, and actually, I've never even really liked him growing up. There were times in his career where I actually disliked him because I thought he complained too much and he would always be crying to the refs. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more mature, I've learned to respect greatness. He's greatness, and there's not another way to put it, and I want to appreciate him while he's here. So for me to say all this stuff about LeBron, it should really speak volumes about him because I'm not even a fan. I'm a diehard Kobe Bryant fan. I'm not a LeBron fan. Let's check out this quote, though, LeBron said about potentially playing with Bryce James. I feel like I could play for quite a while, so it's all up to my body and my mind. If my mind can stay sharp and motivated, then the sky's not even the limit for me. I can go beyond that, but we shall see. I think he's right on that. Motivation is the key. You see it now with Tom Brady. He's not motivated. He's already beat everything out there. You see Tom Brady in all these interviews, he's simply not motivated. He's got the most championship and he's the greatest of all time, and there's no questions about it. But for LeBron, he still has that motivation. People still don't think he's the greatest of all time. He still needs to catch Kareem all-points record, and also, he wants to play with his sons, and that's a lot of motivation. Will he still be motivated in 3 years to play with Bryce James? Only time will tell, but I think he will. Whether you like it or not, Bronny and Bryce James, both of them, they're going to be first-round picks if LeBron is currently still in the NBA when they're drafted. If LeBron James isn't in the NBA, it'll be a different story. But if he is, oh yeah, first round. I'm not really a big fan of them being labeled as these quote-unquote chosen sons, because in reality, they're not. I think they're going to be great players and have a great career, but they're not a chosen one. They're not a LeBron James or a LaMelo Ball. There's very few people in this life that are chosen ones, like Elon Musk. I think they're great individuals, much respect and love to them, but not chosen ones. I am very curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But road to 1 million!